All right, a Nick Caserio draft pick progress report. We're 10 weeks away from reacting to day one, looking ahead to day two. But you got to draft good over a multi-year period if you want to turn a team around, especially in a rebuild. So let's just take a look at Nick Caserio's draft picks. Let's talk about uh, an early grade, how you feel about the player in the future, what he can be, and if he's guaranteed a roster spot next season. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm your host, Landry Locker. Subscribe, like, listen to me 10 to 2, Monday through Friday Central on Sports Radio 610, home of the Texans, show of record. We talk to players, we talk to coaches, we talk to ownership. We got you covered. Subscribe, like, the digital game is blowing up. Let's start with Davis Mills. Davis Mills was a third-round pick. I know that it's kind of a polarizing topic because he followed Deshaun Watson. Maybe the hype got out of control for some, but based on what you've seen from Davis Mills over a 2-year stretch, you know he's not a franchise quarterback, but he could still be a good backup at the NFL level, which if you draft someone in the third round and that happens, more times than not, that's an awesome thing. Kellen Mond was drafted in that same round. He hasn't even been able to stay in the league. Nonetheless, even step on the field. He was drafted before Davis Mills. Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, those are two of the only examples of guys drafted around that range right now that have had that type of success. So if Davis Mills can be a good backup, I don't think that's really that bad of a pick by Nick Caserio. And furthermore, I think we've seen some things to where Davis Mills could potentially be a good backup in this league. So I would say right now, if you want to grade that pick, maybe we can give it a C. But I think Davis Mills, there's a chance he's a good backup in the NFL. And let's be honest, if you're drafting a quarterback at 2, you don't even want Davis Mills to step on the field. So maybe he can be a resource like other backup quarterbacks have been for young QBs. Nico Collins, this one's interesting. I think you got to give this one a C as well. Nico Collins worked his ass off last offseason. He was the last guy on the field when we were at training camp. He showed some signs, probably played better than his stats showed. A couple times Davis Mills missed him, over or underthrew him. And you saw Nico Collins last year, more of the same that we saw in the first year. That's why you got to give him the C. Has had trouble staying healthy, has shown flashes, but the lack of consistency leads you to wonder, is Nico Collins a guy who can just hang around the NFL for a while? Could he be a number 2 receiver? Who knows? It's not going to be for a lack of effort, but the same questions we had about Nico Collins last year, we're going to have the same ones this year, and it's going to be a completely different receiving core, assuming Brandon Cooks is going to be gone. So I got to give Nico Collins a C, although I do think his ceiling is a little bit higher as far as being a player that helps you out than Davis Mills, because Nico Collins, you could see him maybe being a decent number 2 receiver. He's just got to stay healthy. Same stuff as last year. Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan was one of those guys some people were excited about when the Texans drafted him. He slid in the draft, according to some. Some thought he went right when he was supposed to. Just very inconsistent. The blocking, the ability to really find a place for him. You talk about versatility. This is kind of versatility where, yeah, you can line him up in a lot of places, but is he really good at certain things? There's been times where he's made plays that make you say, damn, this guy might have something. There's been times where he's struggled with dropping the rock. He's been a healthy scratch multiple times. Tegan Quitoriano, who we'll hear about in a little bit, Quitoriano has already surpassed him. And Brevin Jordan's going to be fighting for his NFL life. Expect more guys at the tight end position, probably even young guys in camp. Brevin Jordan, right now, if you were grading that pick, you'd have to give it a D. And unlike Collins and Mills, I think the odds are stacked against him for him being on the roster at all. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. He's just going to have to. He's going to have to make a lot of progress in a much different way. The same dialogue about him that we had with Nico Collins. Going to have to give that a D. Garrett Wallow. I've never seen someone drafted where Garrett Wallow was expected to do what Wallow is supposed to do on this team that got as much hype. You've heard Caserio praise him unsolicited. Jack Easterby was doing like that seminar, that Ponzi scheme type seminar, whatever thing that he was doing. And he mentioned Garrett Wallow as like some sort of example that's supposed to show something pivotal. Wallow can be a good special teams player. He could be a contributor on defense in certain situations. But as far as, just doing more than what was expected, at the bare minimum. I don't think we've gotten there yet. He's another guy who might be competing for a roster spot. The Garrett Wallow pick, early grade, I'll give that a C minus because I do think there's a place for him. But how much of a contributor is he going to be on 2 out of 3 phases? That's to be determined. Roy Lopez was a guy who surprised a lot of people his rookie year. Last year, he kind of got thrust into a starting position, which I don't necessarily think is ideal for him. I think he might need to be a little bit heavier than he was this year. I thought that I think he's more of like a guy that you don't want to be starting out there. Somewhere in between what Roy Lopez was his rookie year and this year, I think is the type of player he is. But those are the types of players you can use. You want to rotate defensive linemen. I think Roy Lopez, the pick, let's just give it a solid C. But in a perfect world, you don't want Roy Lopez to have to start too many football games for you. Derek Stingley, this one's going to be an incomplete. I'm not going to grade Derek Stingley in Lovie Smith's defense. I think that's unfair. I think that's bringing a knife to a gunfight. I think it was malpractice the way in which he was used. So Derek Stingley, I'm going to give this an incomplete, but I am going to say there's very, very strong reason for optimism because even amidst that incomplete season, we saw him make some big plays, had the interception of Trevor Lawrence in which he baited him with his back turned, intercepted the ball in the end zone. I know it looked like a really boneheaded play by Trevor Lawrence, which you could make a case was, but it was also a hell of a play by Derek Stingley. So Derek Stingley, let's give that an incomplete, but the ceiling's really high. I think you're looking at a cornerback 1. Kenyon Green, man, let's give this an incomplete as well. Pretty generous. One of the worst seasons for a rookie that I think we've seen around here. I think that's only fair. Didn't seem to be out in shape. Didn't seem to be well conditioned, didn't seem to be healthy. And at times you saw some of the good run blocking, but at other times you saw some lowlights that we still see on the internet. Kenyon Green, incomplete. Going to be really interesting to see how he fits into this system. But I think a full NFL offseason, a fresh start, whether it be getting rid of that number 59, a new offensive system, new coach, it's going to benefit him. So we have 2 incompletes in last year's class. Jalen Pitre, got to give this one an A. Jalen Petrie had rookie struggles last year. The tackling wasn't as good as you would like it to be, but he showed some really good signs, 5 interceptions. And most importantly, he didn't get real low during the lows. He bounced back and had some of his best games after some of his worst games. Jalen Petrie, he's going to benefit from this new defense. He's going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. This is the first day of Nick Caserio draft picks, Jalen Pitre. John Mechie, another incomplete for obvious reasons. If John Mechie is out there at training camp or mini camp and he's just simply touching his toes and stretching, that's a miracle. And then once we see him play, we can lay out expectations, what we should see. But when a young man is recovering from an ACL and he finds out he has to battle leukemia, you got to give that an incomplete. And if he's just out there stretching, then that's good for him. Christian Harris, got to give this one an A. I'm a big fan of Christian Harris. I think he's going to benefit most from D'Amico Ryans. He can run, couldn't stay healthy last year, but we saw him with the interception. We saw him making plays. We saw him making tackles. The expected growing pains, we did see those early on, but Christian Harris going to give this an A. A plus Damien Pierce. Excellent rookie year. Now, I don't think that handing him the ball 220 times through 13 games is a recipe for success, especially given the fact that he had 329 carries in 4 years at Florida. I'm sure y'all have heard me say that 100 times. You've got to get another running back with Damien Pierce, much like the Jags attempted to when they had James Robinson coming off a similar year that Pierce had, similar rookie year, and they drafted Travis Etienne. Etienne, solid contributor now, didn't contribute his rookie year because of the injury. But you gotta ease the workload of Damien Pierce. But you couldn't ask for more from a guy, a 4th round pick. The Texans got a good one there. Thomas Booker, no idea what to expect from Thomas Booker. So I'll say incomplete. Same with Austin Deculus. Tegan Quintariano, I'm going to give this one a solid B+. This kid, he was brought in to block. He showed some things when it came to catching the ball, a couple touchdowns and some other plays. This guy might be a pleasant surprise. And I'm not saying that they got the George Kittle in this offense, but I do think that Quiteriano is going to be a very, very good contributor for this team and a pleasant surprise. As Brevin Jordan tries to make the team, Quiteriano tries to establish himself as one of the guys at the top of the tight end depth chart. So that's the early report card on Nick Caserio's draft picks. The real draft, the next draft, the most important draft, 2 picks in the top 12. 12 draft picks total. That begins less than 10 weeks from now. Can't wait to react to it. Can't wait till free agency starts in about 3 weeks and change. It's going to be fun. Right along with me. This is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. That's the early report card on Nick Caserio's rookies. If you think I screwed up, if you think I said something dumb, put it in the comments. Let's cuss and discuss. Always love the dialogue. Shout out to all the Texans fans that are rejuvenated with this offseason and with this youth movement, which hopefully gets even better. No matter what happens, no matter how Caserio drafts, just remember, when it comes to this Texans game, we are all in this together. Have a great weekend.